I've discussed quite a few questionable films over the history of my YouTube channel, so the concept of mockbusters should be somewhat familiar to returning viewers. For the uninitiated, a mockbuster is an often low-budget film that attempts to capitalise on a more successful mainstream film. And this can be as frivolous as just having a similar title or similar promotional art. Of course, a lot of these films are intentionally bad or funny. James Cameron's Titanic is one of the most successful films ever made, and was the highest grossing film of all time until it was surpassed by Avatar, another film by Cameron. Given that that's the case, of course someone would want to capitalise on the film since its 1997 release. There's The Legend of the Titanic, Titanic The Legend Goes On, and you could argue that Pearl Harbor starring Ben Affleck borrows a lot of Titanic's formula. There have even been quite a few unsettling AI-generated trailers for Titanic sequels, which I'm not too sure that there's even a significant demand for. That brings us to Titanic II. Oh god, it's one of these films. Okay, let's hope for the best, guys. As you can see, Titanic II was directed by, written by, and stars Shane Van Dyke, who apparently also has a writing credit on the film Don't Worry Darling. Never saw that movie. But are my suspicions about the quality of Titanic II unfounded? Let's find out. Without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
Oh Lord.
As I was saying, I'm sure this film will be of the utmost quality. So, the camera pans over some footage of the Helheim Glacier in Greenland, as a block of ice falls from a cliffside in a very convincing effect. A man surfing close by attempts to escape from the subsequent wave, but ends up drowning. I suppose this is meant to be our cold opening? I get that this is Titanic and all, but maybe they took the cold part of the phrase too literally. This incident is noticed by the US Coast Guard, and their captain, James Mayne, heads down to Greenland to investigate. James is played by Bruce Davison, who actually played the original Willard as well as Senator Robert Kelly in the X-Men film series. Meanwhile, a cruiser ship named the RMS Titanic II gets ready for its maiden voyage, with its passengers quickly boarding. I dunno, I wouldn't really consider myself a superstitious person, but calling your ship Titanic II just seems like a recipe for disaster.
Swear to God, I would rather watch some of these people drown than give them CPR.
Well, that's a horrible thing to say. Professionalism, people? These two are James's daughter Amy and her friend Kelly, played by Marie Westbrook and Michelle Glavin respectively, and they work on the ship as nurses. Amy's love interest, Hayden, arrives in a shitty CGI helicopter, and he's surrounded by women. Could that many people even fit in that helicopter? Hayden is the character played by Shane Van Dyke, who's actually the grandson of the famous Dick Van Dyke. Hayden owns the Titanic II, and Amy and Kelly natter to each other about how Amy used to date him but she's not interested anymore. Surely this isn't foreshadowing, is it? No, it couldn't be. But I find it kind of funny how Van Dyke wrote himself to be this sort of goofy rich playboy character. I suppose it is a step up from Johnny from The Room.
People are very strange these days.
So the ship sets off, and it's clear that a lot of these shots are on location, but this looks like a green screen. I don't even know what it is about it, I just don't believe this guy or that belle are actually present on board the ship. James then meets up in Greenland with our obligatory scientist lady, Dr. Kim Patterson, played by Brooke Burns. Yeah, never mind, this film is about 40% green screen. Anyways, Kim says that there's been a pattern of bigger and bigger chunks of ice melting and falling into the ocean thanks to global warming, meaning that a disaster-sized tsunami is on the way. I can't lie, I can't really take the characters seriously when the film so obviously looked like this during filming. I'm also not sure that you're supposed to take it seriously, but there you go. The ice that James, Kim, and Kim's assistant are standing on begins to break down, and Kim and James just ditch the other guy while he struggles to get to safety. R.I.P. nameless assistant guy. You will be missed. Kelly reads about the original Titanic and how nobody heeded any of the warnings about the icebergs at the time. Meanwhile, James sends out a radio message to all the ships in the North Atlantic that a tsunami is heading their way. He specifically tells the Titanic II crew to turn around and the passengers are taken down to the lower decks, panicking when a voiceover tells them to put their life vests on. Just as this begins, the ship is hit by an iceberg.
Now that is irony!
Just saying, why is the lighting down here so yellow? I get that there was a lot of yellow lighting in the film this is parodying, but it looks like they've slapped a filter on top of the footage. Yikes, that fall looks real.
No one's gonna help her?
During the crash, the starboard side of the ship and lifeboat ramps are crushed, cutting off access to half of the lifeboats on the ship. Doesn't this sound familiar? In a moment of nobility, Hayden orders his subordinate to put as many injured people on his helicopter as possible, which indicates he may have grown since his relationship with Amy ended. Another wave is on the way, and more people are being gathered onto lifeboats. Amy goes down to the infirmary with Hayden to look for Kelly, but before they can head down there, Hayden is attacked by some guy.
It's all your fault!
What's wrong with you? Get off of him!
I mean, you chose to get on a boat called Titanic II.
Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. What's up? What's up?
Anyways, Hayden and Amy find Kelly trapped under a cabinet, and she just appears covered in blood with a neck wound. Wouldn't all her bones be crushed by that cabinet? She wouldn't be able to walk, right? Make it make sense. The guy that tried to beat up Hayden earlier tries to join the people in the next lifeboat group, and he is punched out of the lift. Okay, I get that the guy's a dick, but does he deserve to die? What the hell was that? I can barely see what's going on right now. There's this drawn out segment of this guy trying to hold on to the ship, and well...
You cannot be for real. Oh my god, you for real. No, you for fake. No, you for real.
I was in pure shock.
They're taking the absolute piss with this movie. So, the ship's turbines cause an explosion, killing most of the crew and several passengers, and causing a fire. Hayden, Amy, and Kelly are trapped in a lift, and need to find a way to escape, and Amy is actually told to stay away from the lifeboats by James, to avoid being swept away by the next wave. He then advises they try to find some diving gear until help arrives. Well, at least one of them's gonna die before that, just based on the B-movie formula. After climbing to one of the higher decks, Hayden uses an axe to open a very fake-looking door. Amy manages to squeeze through the opening after a struggle, but Kelly is crushed while trying to help. What did I say? The remaining couple uses the piping attached to the ceiling to avoid the floor, which is covered in water and open wiring. They hear the guy from earlier trapped, but he suffocates from the smoke before they can save him. This is supposed to be a really dramatic and sad moment, but you just don't care enough about any of these characters for it to make an impact. They find only one oxygen tank and suit in the ship's diving facility, and the Titanic II is capsized by the second wave. The lifeboats are also destroyed, and Hayden sacrifices himself by letting Amy take the suit and oxygen tank. He asks Amy to revive him when help arrives, and admits this entire fiasco is his fault. I mean, he did pay for the ship and all, so he's kinda not wrong. They kiss, as trauma always brings characters together in these kind of movies, so who's surprised? Just then, help arrives in the form of James and his team, although the helicopter pilot, Snipes, does crash and presumably dies. Amy attempts to resuscitate Hayden, although this doesn't work. So, what did I think of Titanic II? Well, it was certainly an entertaining watch, which I suppose serves its purpose. I found the cast of the film really interesting, and Shane Van Dyke is pretty well known for his work in B-movies and mockbusters. It's actually surprising that I haven't reviewed a film that he's been involved in before. Bruce Davison, on the other hand, is a quite well-known actor who has starred in numerous mainstream movies over his career. Marie Westbrook, who played Amy, has actually done a lot of work in voice acting more recently, such as voicing Hanami in Jujutsu Kaisen and Dorio in Cyberpunk Edgerunners. DC Douglas, who's known for voicing Albert Wesker in the Resident Evil franchise and Yoshikage Kira in the English dub of Diamond is Unbreakable, also played the ship's captain. A lot of the other cast members are known for their work in television or online, which makes it a very interesting mix of actors. I tend to get the impression that these kind of films try to laugh with the audience, as a lot of the lines are presented in a self-aware way, like the filmmakers know that what they're making is bad. I do sort of get this vibe from Titanic II, but it's not grating. It's more like the actors are trying to have fun with what they're doing. I think part of what makes this film so bearable despite its dodgy premise and dialogue is its pacing. The first 5 to 10 minutes do drag a bit because they're filled with very dialogue-heavy character introductions, but the silliness comes in fast once things start going wrong. I mean, that dummy being thrown was taking the absolute piss. I don't think I have to add the very obvious naming choice is probably intended to capitalize on the new spotlight on Cameron following his recent release of Avatar at the time. Funnily enough, a replica of the Titanic, actually named Titanic II, is planned to set sail in 2027. Australian billionaire Clive Palmer has wanted to build a replica of the ship for over a decade, and seems determined to put his plan in motion.
That's fiction. I'm not here to talk about fiction, I'm here to talk about reality. And the reality is that we're building the Titanic.
I don't know guys, let's hope for the best! A sequel to Titanic II, which is known as Titanic 666 or Titanic Rises, was released in 2022. It doesn't seem to have much to do with the previous film and doesn't seem to have any of the cast or writers involved. I may review it in the future, who knows. In summary, is Titanic II a good movie? No. But it doesn't take itself too seriously, thankfully. I wouldn't really recommend this to anyone who isn't a fan of these goofy mockbuster type films, but if you're looking for a laugh, I'd say give it a watch. Well, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.
The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time, 'cause Polos is life, Polos is life, Polos is life, Polos